Free agency is here. The signing's coming fast, and Robert Murray, Bert, is in the middle of it. The Baseball Insiders, we've got the information for you, and it starts right now. Bert, your phone is dinging off the hook here. Max Scherzer going to the New York Mets. You had this report. Let's start with the big signing here. 3 years, $130 million. John Heyman literally just reporting it, and you were about to break that one, my friend. But congrats, I guess, to John, and I guess congrats to Scherzer and the Mets, huh?
Yeah, that holy crap! 3 years for $130 million or somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, it's a record annual average value, and it's also Steve Cohen he's flexing his muscles with the amount of money that he has, because he knows that there's not many, if any, owners who can compete with the wallet that he has. And it also, along with Francisco Lindor signing for $341 million last year, it gives the Mets just two superstar players at really high contracts. But with Scherzer, this market was heating up in recent days. It was close last night, or at least getting closer, I should say. The Dodgers were fading as of last night. I don't think they were willing to go to 3 or 4 years, is my indication that I got. I couldn't see the Giants really going to the $40+ million just because Farhan Zaidi loves financial flexibility. And there was one team that I was really watching out for, and that was Artie Moreno and the Los Angeles Angels. Moreno, he was one of the very few owners who opposed Steve Cohen getting ownership of the Mets. And with Cohen getting the job, I think, or with Cohen and Moreno wanting both wanting Scherzer, I think Moreno wanted to try to outbid him. But in the end, I got word that Moreno backed out, and now Scherzer's going to the Mets in a blockbuster deal. That's going to just unleash all heck in baseball.
All right. I just want to say that I don't know Steve Cohen, but I want to mention that, here's a guy who made his money as a hedge fund manager, right? He founded what was SAC Capital back in the day, pleaded guilty to insider trading, agreed to pay $1.8 billion in fines. And this is the owner of the New York Mets, who's just flying money all around, which I guess congratulations, but that's not exactly the greatest resume that I've ever heard of. But for Scherzer, this is clearly he's taking top dollar here. I'm sure that, this is, and congrats, I get it. But I mean, the Mets, even with Max Scherzer, would you agree they have a ways to go to actually be a viable, certainly World Series contender?
I would absolutely agree with that. I think with the Mets, this certainly brings them closer because adding Scherzer, who's a Hall of Fame pitcher, and having him atop the rotation with Jacob deGrom, that might be the best 1-2 punch in baseball history. And it's, as I said, it brings them closer, but they need to add another bat. And I've heard from people throughout the industry that their additions of Eduardo Escobar and Starling Marte, it provides more balance in the lineup and better at bats. And it allows them to bring in a guy like Javi Baez, who is more of a swing and miss kind of guy. He's not somebody who's going to end up hitting a home run or getting a hit or getting on base in every at bat. He'll strike out a lot, but adding those guys allows them to re-sign Baez, I think. At least that's how other teams feel. And if you add Baez to the mix along with the other players they've added, I think that definitely ends up making them a contender.
Who's most bummed right now that they didn't get Scherzer? Who came in second?
I don't know who came in second, but I would imagine it's the Dodgers because they paid a premium for Scherzer at the deadline, and they only got him for a half a season. What's going to soften the blow for them is the fact they have Trey Turner under contract, and he's just a superstar player, probably a top 5, if not top 10 player in baseball. So them having Turner is going to end up softening the blow, but I think that's going to end up being they're going to be really bummed by losing out on Scherzer because he's irreplaceable. I'm sure Artie Moreno's bummed to lose out on Scherzer, not just because of Scherzer, but because he lost to him from Steve Cohen. But those are the two teams that really stand out for me.
So the Dodgers and even the Angels, these teams rarely get outbid. Do they? You think it was just strictly money? I'm sure the Dodgers can always find dollars. The same thing with the Angels. So why didn't this get bid up any further? Do you have any understanding of that?
Yeah, like I think it all just came down to the years. And the fact that he was able to get 3 for 130, which comes out to what, like 43 and a half or so million a year. Like that, I don't even know if the Dodgers or any other team was willing to go to that average annual value, let alone with the years. And like when you combine that with the years, like that to me, like a deal was going to get done with the Mets. I don't like with those other teams not willing to go to that park or that range, I should say. I just don't see, like it was clearly the Met. If he wanted the most money, it was the Mets. But if he wanted to win a championship immediately, it was probably the Dodgers. But clearly he wanted the money.
43.333333333 billion a year. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I tend to like at least those deals to me feel a whole lot better than the 7-year deals that pitchers get. Like you're paying a premium and he's at the end of his career. So there is risk there, but you know, you're coming out of the gates. He's getting the max dollars that he's going to get in the deal, and it doesn't last forever. So I get it. And there was a lot of comparisons with Trevor Bauer. That name, of course, is a complete lightning rod nowadays, and rightfully so for the record. But people were speculating, well, this is the deal that Bauer got, so Scherzer's probably going to get the same 3 years and more, and that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And like I'm glad you mentioned the Bauer thing, because coming into the Scherzer sweepstakes, a lot of people in baseball mentioned that with Scherzer and the Mets is they've shown a willingness to make that kind of a deal, especially like short-term average annual value just being super high. And that's why a lot of people consider them the dark horse coming into this, even though entering the offseason, I think most people felt the Dodgers were the favorites. And that willingness ended up netting them Max Scherzer. And I'm also wondering, with adding all those players they did the other day, combined with adding Scherzer, do free agents now start flocking to the Mets? And like that to me is a very realistic thought. I don't know. Like I haven't heard specifically of any other players who think that, but like Scherzer is a game changer. And them adding Scherzer not only makes them attractive to free agents, like they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially as I mentioned earlier with DeGrom and Scherzer, like that you can compete with anybody. Like that is legitimately just superstardom.
Yeah. And I'm going to do a deeper dive, by the way, on Steve Cohen, but like just the whole that baseball was willing to take on a guy who was convicted of insider trading and is paying 1.8 billion. It just, the end of the day, money talks. Just remember that the baseball insiders, we know this, that money. It's really, I don't like it, Bert. I don't like it at all. But here, one thing I do like is you and your Thanksgiving turkey meals and everything else you've said. That's just kind of cringeworthy, but yet beautiful at all at the same time because of your honesty. You broke Marcus Simeone. Congratulations. This is where I'm going here.
I was thinking you were going into my mashed potatoes take. They got me dunked on by a lot of people.
We'll get to that in a second. But 7 years, 175 to the Rangers for a 31-year-old. Another deal instantly. My reaction seeing is like, that is not smart on Texas's part, but it's beautiful on you for breaking it. By the way, the Athletic credit to you. Fansided broke the story. ESPN in their story did not give you credit, which I think is BS. But Jeff Passan gave you credit on Twitter, which we love you, Jeff Passan. So thank you.
This is a podcast that loves Jeff Passan. I want to make that clear. That's my guy.
Well, Passan credited you, but and he didn't write the article. The article that was written by ESPN was like, well, Jeff Passan. I'm like, Jeff Passan. Murray had it first, and I'm bringing this up, not you. So that's okay. I just want to give you props on the Simeone deal. Were you surprised by the Rangers? And give me the background on what went on there.
So I caught wind early in the day that Scherzer was going to be the only one of Boris's main clients to sign before the lockout. And all of a sudden I get a text message saying, happy holidays. Simeone is signing with the Rangers on a 7-year deal. And I'm like, this okay. Like, let's check this out. Cause like Simeone made a lot of sense for the Rangers, but I think a lot of people connected them with Trevor's story for obvious reasons. So I ended up doing some digging on it, and I got a text back right away saying it's close. You can report it. And I ended up reporting it, and my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Legitimately, I could not use my phone for about 20 minutes there. But in terms of this deal happening, the Simeon's asking price was astronomically high. And there was some, like, immediately the Blue Jays understood that there was a very slim chance they were going to end up re-signing Simeone. And the Rangers, they were aggressive. They wanted a shortstop, or they wanted an infielder, I should say. So they ended up signing Simeone, 7 years, 175. That's the years that he wanted, even last year, that he was not able to get. And they ended up securing a player that is going to be a foundational piece for them. They think he's going to end up being huge in the clubhouse for them, but it's also just the beginning of what the Rangers are trying to do. And I would not be surprised at all if the Rangers continued negotiations with Corey Seager, who's Scott Boris's client. Like, Seager is someone who's firmly on the radar. I can say that with confidence. And Chris Woodward, their manager, loves Seager, and I am under the impression the feeling is mutual. And Trevor Story is somebody that they remain interested in too. I think if they got it their way, it would end up being Seager. But like, either one of those is a huge win. Like, this team, the Rangers, they entered this offseason like with a lot of money to spend. And we saw it yesterday with all the moves that they ended up making with Simeone, Cole Calhoun, and John Gray. Like, this is only the beginning. I'll give you another name for him, by the way, Carm. You ready for this?
All right, let's go.
Kyle Schwarber.
Wow.
Yeah, they are quietly in on Schwarber. I've heard for days that Schwarber is unlikely to sign before the lockout. I'm wondering if that's the likelihood of that is changing. I don't know if it's specifically with the Rangers, but I would imagine the Phillies are going to end up being in on this just because of, like, he's somebody who's very close with Kevin Long, their new hitting coach. I wonder if the Mets are in. Like, that's just me speculating. That's not sourced info by any means, but like, the Mets, they're going to be connected to everybody. Like, after signing Scherzer, they'll be connected to everybody. So I'm like, that's what I'll keep an eye on, even though, as I said, I want to stress this, I have not heard that. But yeah, the Rangers, like, sticking with them, they're very active. They want stars. They have money to spend, and I'm under the impression they'll try to make it happen as much as they can.
So, before you dumped a lot of stuff here, but let me just finish up Marcus Simeone.
Yep.
Career year last year, dude, it's 45 bombs. His OPS was 873. That's only the second time in his career that he's been over 800. And when I say over 800, he hasn't sniffed it in the other years. I mean, the highest in the outside of those other 2 years is 735. He's 31 years old. Okay, fine. You're going to a hitter's ballpark in Texas, and he's very durable. He played 162 games last year, and he's been well in the 150s multiple times. But I don't know, man. That is a long putt that you are certainly buying at its apex, correct?
Yeah, Simeone was a player that the Rangers ended up identifying early on in the process as somebody they wanted, because they knew it was going to end up being somebody at their price point and it wouldn't eliminate them from adding another premium free agent. Hence why I ended up mentioning them with Seager and with Story and also with Schwarber. Yes, he is 31. Yes, he's probably not going to end up performing at this kind of a level throughout the entire 7 years of his contract, but he's still going to be an impact player. And he's also the kind of player that you want to bet on too, because I've heard from people that have played with him, that have been around him, that he's a phenomenal leader. And he's somebody that you can comfortably believe in even after getting a contract of this stature. So, like, I think the Rangers, this was just one part of a huge plan for them. I think Simeone makes a lot of sense for them because he can move around the infield, and he's an impact bat. And he'll end up attracting other players to the Rangers, like, not to the effect of Scherzer to New York, but like, this proves that the Rangers are serious and they can use this as a recruiting tool for, say, a player of Seager or somebody else. And like, they're also going to keep an eye on Clayton Kershaw too. He's probably not, I'm under the impression he won't sign until after the deadline, or until after the lockout, I should say. But like, he's somebody that's going to be on their radar. And say you end up adding another player like Seager and some other players. I think they're looking for relievers as well. You add all those pieces, and then you can potentially add potentially add Kershaw later on. Like that's a very formidable roster. So it's one part of a huge process for them, but like I think it makes a lot of sense.
So let's talk about the starting pitchers, because like some deals to me, Steven Matz's in particular, seems reasonable. And then a guy like Kevin Gausman, who's this is a back end of the rotation starter getting 110 million. That seems a little bit crazier. I don't know if you think the Blue Jays overpaid, but just the way the starting pitching market has been moving around here, obviously Scherzer at the top, but you still have some big time names out there, Robbie Ray for one. But so Gausman, Blue Jays, was that a surprise?
It wasn't a surprise that it was the Blue Jays. Like that was a deal. I saw San Francisco end up connecting to Gausman or being connected to Gausman a lot. I did not think they would end up being in at that price point, especially the years, because he was a really good pitcher for them. Like I think he's more of a frontline starter than maybe you were giving him credit for. But like in the second half of last season, like he wasn't, like teams were laying off of that sinker of his, and his numbers ended up being impacted by that. So like I think for the Blue Jays, after missing out on Syndergaard and all these other starting pitchers that they were targeting, Steven Matz was another one, by the way, that they wanted to bring him back. But after missing out on all those guys, they were in a position where they were desperate. And they ended up having to go the extra mile to secure Gausman. And it also gives them at the top of the rotation, Jose Barrios, and then Gausman. And then you also have Hyun-Jin Ryu, you have Alek Manoah, you have Nate Pearson as well. It was a pretty talented guy who hasn't put it all together quite yet, but like from a talent standpoint, that's very good. And they're going to continue to try to bring back. I don't know about Robbie Ray. So I can tell you the Angels love him, by the way. I don't know if they're going to do it after signing Lorenzen, but like the Blue Jays are going to continue to be active because they need to. Especially after losing Simeone. But so sticking with Gausman and the Blue Jays here, that it was too rich for my blood personally. I think that was a deal I would have shied away from. But as I said, the Blue Jays were desperate and ultimately they ended up pulling the trigger on a deal that was pretty hefty.
Yeah, and listen, I don't want to be unfair to Kevin Gausman. He was a back end starter for most of his career. He certainly wasn't that last year. And if we're going to include the pandemic year, that's fair too. But for the majority of his career, that's what he's been. I mean, if you're a Blue Jays fan, Steven Matz, Kevin Gausman, are you comfortable with that trade basically?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that trade because I think Gausman ends up presenting a lot more upside than Steven Matz. Cause he's shown last year, especially in the first half, that he can be a frontline starter. And even like the year before that too, that earned him the qualifying offer, is the Giants clearly saw something in him that they were going to be able to end up maximizing that talent. And to their credit, they did. And maybe he's got another gear in him. I'm not sure, but I think that was I think it was an upgrade for the Blue Jays going from Matz to Gausman. And like, if we want to talk about Matz for a second, like, so that deal to me, I was expecting less years, but more per year personally. The fact that he was able to get 4 years for 44, I think the 4 years was what separated the Cardinals from any other team. And obviously that was a huge, I don't even know what you want to call it. It was just a huge mess with how it was with the Mets too. And Steve Cohen calling out Rob Martin's Matz's agent for not giving them a chance to match when they were clearly willing to match for 4 years for $44 million. But like that solidified the Cardinals rotation. They were comfortable going 4 years, and he fits that team perfectly, by the way, because they've been actively seeking a ground ball starting pitcher, and Matz fits that description perfectly. And now so here's another nugget for you on the Cardinals is they're looking for relievers now. I know one of them they're interested in is Joe Kelly. There's nothing imminent as of 11:24 Central Time. But like there's clearly interest there. So that's one to keep an eye out for.
I mean, incredible year end for the Cardinals getting in the playoffs, of course, bowing out, but I'm sure they look at the Central, think this is incredibly winnable. The Cubs are doing absolutely nothing. The Reds are, I mean, Nick Castellanos, I don't know where you think he's going, but certainly not going back to Cincinnati. Lorenzen gone. I mean, the Cardinals look, I mean, they're going, I think they're making a very realistic play that this is our division and take a shot at the whole thing, right? I mean, that's what I see.
So I just got a text that Scherzer is a done deal. So, and it's not just close, it's done. So, sorry, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
I'd say that the Cardinals are looking at the Central like it's their division, clearly by their moves. I mean, the Cubs are, who knows what the Cubs are doing. The Reds are going backwards. I don't know where, you have Nick Castellanos, but he's not going back to Cincinnati, I don't think. Lorenzen off and gone. So this is I think St. Louis looks appropriately like this is realistically, it's our division and we can take a shot at the whole thing here.
Oh, absolutely. Like this is, to me right now, it's a 2-horse race in the Central between the Cardinals and the Brewers. And the Brewers are still going to be pretty good. Like they have a very strong rotation. They have Christian Yelich, who they're confident that he'll be better, but I mean, you can't really bet on that now after 2 really down seasons. And offensively, they really scuffled last year. But if you're looking at it from strictly the Cardinals, you have a 1 through 5 in the rotation that is pretty solid. You have an offense that features Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Tyler O'Neill, and a bunch of other really good players, 5 Gold Glove defenders. If you put all those things together, like that is a very good looking roster. And like they're not done. They have money to spend. Like Matt's ended up saving them money in the long haul rather than signing a guy like Marcus Stroman, who they investigated, but that's going to be too expensive for their liking. So they can end up adding an impact reliever. They can maybe even add 2 of them. You can add another bat to the lineup. They can do a lot of different things, but even right now, I think they're the favorite in the Central. And it places a lot of pressure on first-year manager Ali Marmol because he's got win now expectations. Cardinals believe in him, but like this is going to be probably their most important season in years just because of the expectations. And also this is probably going to be Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright's last seasons too.
Incredible run for both of those guys. I mean, really, just I'm sure there's plenty of teams that are not going to be sad to see either of them go, even at this age. Still coming up with big hits and big performances on the mound. Bert, let's run through who's left out there, and one of them is Kris Bryant, and you're reporting that the Mariners are right there with KB.
Yeah, like the Mariners they're in on KB. So Jerry Dipoto, one of their front office executive, he said that they have an offer out to a premium free agent. I don't know if it's Bryant, but they've poked around on him. They've been doing background work on Bryant for weeks now. And I had one source who knows tell me that it seems like a recruiting pitch to try to bring Kris Bryant to Seattle. I don't know the likelihood of a deal. They're gonna need to recruit him pretty heavily to bring him over to Seattle. But Dipoto wants to win. Like he's been in a rebuild ever since he ended up coming to Seattle, and like they ended up against all odds competing last year toward the end of the year, even after trading off some of the pieces at the deadline. But Bryant would be a huge addition for them. I think the Philadelphia Phillies are going to end up being in on Bryant. Giants seem like they're probably out. Or unlikely, I should say. I think unlikely is a better word for the Giants and Bryant. But like clearly the Mariners, they want to add a piece of significance. And Adam Frazier was a good start, but they want to have an impact bat in the lineup. Bryant would be that. And I'm also very curious to see what kind of a contract he gets because there's a lot of mixed opinions around Bryant around baseball, which kind of caught me off guard. So I think Boris may have he's going to have a challenge trying to get Bryant the deal that he's thought he's going to have getting for years here.
The KB knock in Chicago was that he was not built for this particular market, which I think is ridiculous, but that is out there. And clearly he didn't win over the Giants as far as them being willing to bring him back at no matter what, even if at all. So Seattle to me makes sense from at least how the Cubs were looking at him in the market that he would thrive in. Philly, way better. You'd rather hit baseballs in Philly than in Seattle, but then you're dealing with the Philly fans. So I don't know how KB is looking at this, obviously, but outsider looking in, maybe Seattle's a better fit. Have you heard any of that on KB as far as the personality?
I can't say I have, but I also have not dug in on that personally. So like and going to the Philly fan base. So like I'm an Eagles fan, so I understand the Philly fan base, or at least I think so. They're a very tough crowd. But they're also a very passionate crowd. And when you're winning in Philadelphia, I don't know if there's a better place to win, because like that fan base will support you to the day you die. And darn right, I see Sean Daly, who's one of our producers here. He's putting facts into our group chat here. He's also a fellow Philly fan. So shout out to Sean for that. So like I think Bryant would like it if he ends up going there and succeeds, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to perform. And like I don't know if he's got a preference to what team he wants to go to. I think this is going to end up being a case of like how much money he can get and like what kind of deals, like on a average annual value, but also a yearly basis that he's able to get. Like he's probably, to me, the greatest mystery in free agency and what kind of a contract he could get. Because yeah, it's mixed opinions all across the board.
Daly is a front runner. Don't give him any. He's one of those guys that he loves you when you're going well. He was a huge AI guy back in the day, but then when AI ends up playing for the Nuggets, he shows back up in Philly. Daly's booing him. I didn't know Sean at that point, but he's one of those types. For the record, I get it.
Yeah. Well, hey, Daly's my boy. He's an Eagles guy, so I got your back, Daly.
In our chat right now, it's Carm, those are fighting words, which was the point of those words. Sean Daly's a great fan. He's a standard Philly guy. Green and white all day, and ride that and wearing his Phillies cap. All right, let's tackle just a couple other names. Nick Castellanos, where do you think he goes?
Giants.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think that's one I'm monitoring. I've had some people who would speculate that as the potential landing spot. Like, I'm not saying anything's going to happen for sure, but like that's the team I think is going to have landing Castellanos.
You got a sense on Correa?
Boy, so
we've done this every week.
Everybody and their mother has been connecting him to the Tigers. I don't know if that's likely. I think that might be overblown, but we'll see.
He had lunch. There was a lunch in Detroit. It went lovely, but apparently
actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because like this is something I've wanted to mention is, so Correa and AJ Hinch had lunch in public at that one restaurant in Houston, and Correa's agent and AJ Hinch met at the GM meetings in public for a very long time for everybody to see. And I've been wondering, like, clearly they're going to be interested in Correa, because every team that needs a shortstop should be interested. But the fact they're making their meetings so public, I wonder if that's a smokescreen to try to like drive, or like to end up taking people's attention away from the other shortstops with them, and they just swoop in at the last second and get somebody else. That's speculation on my end, but something that's been in my head ever since I saw that meeting at the GM meetings.
Like Trevor's story?
I'll give you Javi Baez.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I like the way you're thinking. I like it a lot, actually.
Well, you're the first person who's told me that, so I thank you, Carm.
Well, we're on the same team here, Bird. This is the Baseball Insiders, buddy. You don't like mashed potatoes? Is that a thing?
Oh, that's absolutely a thing. So, like, I got crushed for that, by the way. Like I had my mom text me and ask, she said, I raised you better than that. And evidently she didn't.
What was the actual tweet?
It was a Thanksgiving food take. Mashed potatoes are bad. And I'm not kidding you. Within 20 seconds of tweeting it, Jeff Passan responded with, clearly you don't know how to make mashed potatoes. And my mentions just turned into an absolute shit show. It was great. I absolutely loved it. Like, getting roasted like that is one of my favorite things in the world. But that's the thing, is that's a take that I actually believe is mashed potatoes. Like, I've never had a good mashed potato. And like that tweet has resulted in friends questioning our friendship and also my sanity. And yeah, but like, that's something I'll go to the grave with, unless like I actually find a good mashed potato. That mashed potatoes are just bad. Same with turkey, by the way.
I mean, this is just, I mean, your mom should be very concerned because you just basically put her on blast.
She's a very good cook, by the way. I got to give her a shout out for that in the pod here. But like just mashed potatoes in general, like
clearly not her mashed potatoes. You said that your mom's mashed potatoes suck. That's clearly, I mean, that is basically what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, boy, yeah, that's good. When I eventually see my mom again, this is a good result in a talk.
What's your mom's name?
Her name is Jan Murray.
Jan Murray. I think we got to get Jan Murray on the show to discuss her mashed potatoes and how she makes them, and allow people like Jeff Passan to comment that Jan, maybe she's not putting enough cream cheese in there, heavy cream, butter. I mean, these are the keys to mashed potatoes from this seat.
That's the thing, is I'm dairy free, so it makes having a good mashed potato pretty tricky. So, I
mean, how do you even live your life? You can't have a milkshake?
No milkshake, unless it's like oat milk or something.
I mean, so you're okay. We need a creative mashed potato. So, all right. Well, that's not your fault though, Bert. If you're dairy free, you're dairy free. Your body doesn't allow it. You're doing the best you can over there. I get it.
I'm trying to, at least.
All right, let's wrap up with just a couple more names, and then we're gonna have another episode of the Baseball Insiders coming this weekend or later this week after the collective bargaining agreement is not agreed to, as everyone expects, and there'll be a lockout starting December 1st. We do think that that's what's happening, right? There's no miraculous somehow they get a deal done in the next couple of days.
Nah, I think the odds of that are basically nothing. I'll say they're slim to none is what they are. Everybody in baseball is fully expecting a lockout. And I think all the player movement is just a confirmation of that a lockout is happening. And these teams and players, I'll look at my phone real quick. Because I had somebody, I got to remember. I cannot remember who sent me that text, but like everybody there's going to be a ton of signings happening in the next couple of days, or in the next 24 hours, I should say. And I would expect most of those signings to happen tonight, just because teams have to get these players in for physicals, and they need to review the medicals. And in case if they need time for a potential hiccup in the deal, they need time to solve that. But I've heard from a lot of different people that this signing period is a very good thing for baseball, in that having like a free agency deadline to increase the action would be a lot of fun. And like I've heard that from a lot of different agents, which kind of surprises me, because some of them like to wait out the market. But this is a very good thing for baseball. It feels like the NBA free agency here. But I can tell you, this is probably, actually, I'll take it a step further. This is the most active period in baseball free agency that I've ever encountered. And I've had veteran agents who have been in this for 25 plus years say the same thing. Like, they have never seen anything like this ever.
So I'm confused by it, for the record. Wouldn't you want to know what the actual deal is before you sign guys to life-changing, huge impact contracts? I don't get that part of it. Can you explain that as we say goodbye?
Yeah, I think it's the uncertainty of what this next CBA is looking like. And these teams, they don't know if the next CBA is going to be more favorable toward the player, and the players don't know if the deal is going to be more favorable toward the teams. So that uncertainty is increasing the activity from both sides, and the aggressiveness in trying to get deals done. So the uncertainty of what this next deal is going to look like potentially this could end up really impacting the teams, or really benefiting the teams, I should say. But just so much uncertainty, it's just, it's got this market into an absolute frenzy. And I'll leave you with this. I think any player that is not attached to the qualifying offer that is not named Marcus Stroman is fair game. There's going to be a boatload of signings, and my phone, I'm glad I turned off the dinger on it, because it's lighting up. Thankfully, no signings have happened while we're doing the pod here, besides Scherzer. But I would expect tonight to be just banana land.
That's why everyone's following by Robert Murray on Twitter, and congrats on the Simeone news and everything else you're doing over there. We love you, Bert. So does
Yeah.
Jeff Passan. So does the baseball world. And we're looking forward to an insane, as you've just said, couple days or 24 hours of baseball news. And then we'll be back with you later in the week. Bert, happy Thanksgiving. Good to see you. And
good seeing you too, Carm. By the way, well, first off, I love you too. That's the most important thing. That's I got to make that clear. But stay tuned to the Twitter handle today. I got some stuff cooking.
That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to sit there and just stare at your Twitter. I'm not even going to have Twitter up. I'm just going to have your Twitter up.
I like that mindset.
I'm just going to refresh you. Look for Bert tweets. Maybe a separate little corner for Bert. But all right, thank you for listening to Baseball Insiders. We appreciate it. And everybody who gives a review / a rating / any comments on the Baseball Insiders on Twitter is greatly, greatly appreciated and gives us job security. So thank you. And to my friend Sean Daly, who apparently had a Denver Nuggets #3 Allen Iverson jersey, I greatly apologize. And I will remember this moment in time. Heart, soul, best fan in the world out of Philly, it's Sean Daly. Done. Thank you for listening to the Baseball Insiders.